guys, this is Mrs. Hall, and today I am going to talk about Tony Hawk. So when we begin the skateboarding project, we're basing the idea off of a skateboarder and actually a business owner, Tony Hawk. So who is Tony Hawk? Let me go ahead and click that. Tony Hawk is one of the most recognized action sports figures in the world. He started skateboarding when he was only 9 years old, and he turned pro at age 14. So that's the same thing as turning pro of some sport in the 8th grade. At 16, so when he was a sophomore in high school, he was known as the best competitive skateboarder in the world. So everything was going awesome for him. You could see he looks super happy right there. But then there's an issue. So here's the problem. Skateboarding died as a competitive sport in 1991. So he basically spent all of his elementary, middle, and high school career training and practicing for something that really people don't care about anymore. Because remember, with sports, the only way that you really support the income of the athletes is to have people sponsor them and to go to their games. If nobody cares anymore about that sport, then you don't have an income. So that's exactly what happened to Tony. He suddenly, after dedicating, a really huge part of his childhood and early adolescence to skateboarding, didn't have any money. So I always ask my classes, if you were Tony, then how would you go forward? How would you make your money? Usually we talk about things he could go to college. Even though he's older, he could go to college. He could go to a trade school, learn a trade. Some people usually say, well, he could just, go find a job at maybe a McDonald's or a fast food restaurant or something like that. That's very possible, okay? Or he could kind of figure out, well, what else can he do with the skills that he already has? And all of those are viable options for him. So what he did is he tried to go into business. Now, you don't have to have a background or a degree in business to create a business. It doesn't hurt to have some sort of background, but you don't have to. And so what he did was he created a company called Birdhouse Projects. And it was a skateboarding company, obviously, because that's what he knew. It did terrible the first couple of years. But remember, if his sport did not gain popularity, then why would he think that that business would also do well? Because if people don't care about that sport, they're not going to care about buying stuff for that sport either. So it did terrible the first couple of years, but then something happened. The popularity of skateboarding started again, and he made a lot of money. Okay, because remember, not only did he start the company, but he had that really famous name attached to it. And that a lot of times is the biggest thing when you're selling a product is like, do you have a famous name attached to it, or what makes your product unique? After that, he started Hawk Clothing, which is obviously his clothing company for skateboarding. So it was like an expansion of the business. He couldn't do that expansion, though, until his first business was successful. Okay, so we talk about, at least with if you're selling some sort of any product, really, a skateboard design is really important. So good design was key to making his business successful. What kinds of things did Tony have to consider when he's designing his skateboards? So this is really important because when you are older, you may go into marketing, you may go into business, you may be trying to sell something to a company. Most people need to have an idea, a small idea about marketing a product. So we talk about typically in class a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. One thing is your target audience. So you have to decide what age, what group of people that you are trying to sell to. So for example, if I am trying to market skateboards, you need to think of the majority of people who skateboard, what age group that they are in. So I would say the majority of people that skateboard are upper elementary, middle school, and then maybe early high school. That's going to be your target audience, your target market. You're not going to try to design skateboards for people like me who are 31 and will break, their leg if they even try to get on a skateboard. You want designs that are going to fit that age category and stuff that they would want to buy. That's very important. The other thing you need to think of is once you have that target age category, what price range are you going to consider? Is this going to be something that, iPhones are very expensive. People are willing to pay a lot of money, but you're also isolating a certain group of people that can't afford to buy those. So what price range are you going to give your products? Certain products are able to fetch a higher price, but I think for skateboards, they're going to need to be priced appropriate for a middle schooler or an early high schooler, someone that doesn't have a job yet usually. Okay, so those are the sorts of things that you need to think about when you're planning your designs. The other thing is styles also, and I think I did mention this, but if you have, let's say, a group of people that are skateboarders, they may or may not like preppy skateboards. They may like more alternative designs or comical designs or darker colors or lighter colors. So you need to consider that also. All right, so here's the criteria. So you're going to be creating your own deck for display, and the display may have to be some sort of online platform, and I'm still figuring out how we can display ours. I'm thinking possibly putting them in a Google Slideshow and then sending that out to everybody. Your classmates will get to buy a skateboard design. So you're going to pretend that you are marketing this product to the class. So you need to think about, who's in your class, what around what age group. Obviously, they're middle schoolers. What is their style? Okay, that's very important. So for example, if you love manga characters and you love to draw them, that's awesome. But remember, if you are in a class that probably doesn't like manga drawings, you're not going to sell a whole lot of these. So when you design something to sell, you do want to love it. You want to make it your own because that will make it a better quality drawing or product. But you also have to think about who you're selling to. So I want you to keep both of those things in mind when you are trying to design your skateboard. Not only what do I like, but what would sell? What would my classmates like? Okay, so here are your 3 basic design options. So in optical art design, some of you may have trouble thinking of an idea. Maybe this is too broad of a category, and you may want to do an optical art deck, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And by the way, a deck is simply that wooden part on the skateboard that doesn't include the wheels. It's just the wooden part, okay? Object character animal deck. So what this is almost like a free choice. So you could have objects on your skateboard deck. You could do a character, but the character has to be your original character. It cannot be a copyrighted character like Mickey Mouse or Pluto, SpongeBob, something like that. Even off a video game, it cannot be a copyrighted character. It has to be your own creation. Animals are not copyrighted. If it was a specific cartoon animal, that would be like Bugs Bunny, that's copyrighted. But a bunny itself is not copyrighted. Typography, so words, that's another option you could do. That would also be like graffiti. Okay, so here's some examples that I just wanted to go over of years past. Now, these people decided not to put wheels on it. They wanted it just to be the skateboard deck. You're going to have the option of, do you want to draw wheels on it, or do you want to just display the skateboard deck? Either way is fine with me, but that is going to be your personal choice. But that's why there's no wheels on here. So this girl, it says Good Vibes. She actually won that year, and people voted hers as the one that they would buy the most. And the reason is because it caters to a large audience. A pineapple is pretty generic, but it's viewed as sort of like a summer fun idea. And then she has good vibes, which again is not specific, but it's just a positive message. She has very high contrast here, so dark versus light. And typically, things that are high contrast and colorful like this will sell better. So those are some of the aspects you need to keep in mind for your project. This one, it says Imagine. This one was done in marker, and it's supposed to be like a curtain, almost like a stage the person is pulling back. I love how they did dark versus light on this one. I think putting it on a background, maybe not purple, that was like a lighter background may have looked better, but I think this was very neat, well thought out, and just overall well done. I like the concept. Okay, this was an example of one of those manga character ones. She does excellent work. I mean, this girl does beautiful characters. It didn't win though because the majority of the class really isn't into manga. I can appreciate her drawing because of the art skills that it involves. But again, when you're selling, you got to think about your target audience. This one was cool. I think the hands turned out really well on it, and I like the idea of paint splatters. I think that the delicate nature of the design maybe didn't fit in as well with a skateboarder if we think of who traditionally skateboards, but I think it's still a really interesting design. This one I loved. She did optical art. Well, she actually did optical art and typography or words mixed. What I don't like about this is that she put her last name and her number, which is cool. But if you were going to sell this, unless you're famous like Tony Hawk, you're not going to sell much of that because people wouldn't want your name on it with your number. It should be a little bit more generic. Again, unless you're famous. Okay, this one is really cool. It's watercolor. I love the left and the right side, how the pink and the black stand out, but the middle, it says inspire, and I like that, but I think we probably should have outlined that silver Sharpie instead of just leaving it the way it is. This one is oil pastel. Oil pastel tends to smear pretty badly. I think this may have turned out different if she used marker or even colored pencil. It may have been a little bit more crisp and might have sold, or, people might have picked it more. This one was pretty cool. It was in colored pencils. I liked his design. I would have maybe darkened the C a little bit with the colored pencils because remember, higher contrast usually sells more. This one says skate. She did a really good job, and I think she won in her class. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward, but yet it looks interesting. This one says go. I think this was partially done in oil pastels too. I wouldn't suggest oil pastels on this project just because they do smear. And this is a pretty simple fish one, but I think it turned out well. And this one was watercolor. It was supposed to be, I don't know if it was supposed to be alien or what. I think the composition didn't turn out as well as could be. It seems a little unbalanced to me. I like the drip, but I think that the bottom, the random like eye and mouth and stuff, I think it could have been better. And this one says zoom. So they put zoom really big, and then they repeated the word zoom over and over and over again to create a line design or a pattern. You could also do that with words. It could be words of a song. It could be a poem. It could be pretty much anything. This one I like, the aliens, but I think the alien blends in with the background a little bit too much, and it probably could have been a little neater. This is watercolor. Okay, so we will talk about your sketch worksheet in the next video. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at hallkr@boxc6.org. Thanks.